Thank you for learning Siebel with the Siebel Hub. We have a unique, comprehensive and always up-to-date collection of Siebel CRM 2021 training classes. We can deliver live online and on-site training in the highest quality with the most experienced instructors. And we also offer a unique modular Siebel CRM 20 and 21 training. Follow the links in the description or on this slide to learn more and learn Siebel with the Siebel Hub. We are going to discuss a little bit first, I think, 21.4, which is the biggest monthly update in this April. We have the highlights of 21.4, which are usually, as usually, I collect them from bookshelf, from the release notes, and from literally running the software, looking into things. So there's definitely one thing you can't miss is that web tools gets a lot of attention with the first wizard of hopefully what's many wizards to come. That's the web service. The Whistle JSON wizard is now available in web tools. The workflow simulator has arrived in web tools, which is under limited availability. I'm going to have a word on that. There is a new feature, a tiny little feature in the post-installation database update utility, or whatever is the official name. Sometimes it's post-installation database setup and sometimes update. There is a new ZooKeeper version, and that's a first too, because for the last 4 years, there was the 3.4 ZooKeeper, and now that's 3.62. And with the new ZooKeeper come folder changes, not related to ZooKeeper, but we're going to take a look. And on top of that is a Tomcat update to 9.043. All right, so the wizard is the web tools wizard for web services. That's JSON and Whistle. So that is a combined wizard, as you all know. It's in Siebel Tools. It works fine since 20.8 at least for the REST outbound stuff, importing JSON, and now it has arrived in web tools. And I found it quite interesting when I looked into it. It's actually built using Task UI. So I thought, wow, Oracle is really starting to reuse all the good stuff, not reinventing the wheels here. So this is a task UI. So a task is guiding you through the process. And it's of course, graphically totally different from what is Siebel Tools, but in the steps and the content is very similar to Siebel Tools and of course the outcome. And there's some underlying architecture which was prepared, at least for the JSON part, in 20.8, when Siebel Tools got the capability of actually outsourcing the XML generation to the Tomcat, to the SES Tomcat, using the Java capabilities there. So some of you might have set this up and might remember you have to download some jar files to get it to work. And now these jar files seem to be included. So let's take a quick look at it. So got my environment up and got Siebel Tools up. So this is 20.21.4. I can immediately recognize it because there's a new magic wand icon top right corner. And that gives me a, hopefully growing list of wizards. So that's the first one, the web service wizard. So like in Siebel Tools, you select it and click a button. Let's click it. So start. There we go. And first page of the Task UI. And there is a prompt for uploading a file. So let me see. I got the infamous pet store JSON here, just to see how things go. I got a workspace open, so I have done that already. And There's nothing else you need to do apart from setting up the Java 64 subsystem, which points to the Tomcat, the container URL. But that should be already set up. And so now Tomcat is doing the heavy lifting, converting the JSON information to XML, which is now available for download. That's a difference to Siebel tools too. There's nothing to download really. And you don't need to download this stuff, by the way. It's just here if you want it. It's the temporary files and the it's mostly temporary files, I would call it. And you see there's about a lot of integration objects and one business service to be created, the proxy service. Let's hit submit. So it's the final step. And so Web Tools will take over, import that XML. It's not really documented what happens, but that's what I think happens. That XML is going to be used to create the business service and integration objects in that workspace. And there's a log file now, which you can download. Let's just download it. Take a look. Well, that's basically what it says in Siebel Tools as well. And there's the runtime configuration data file, which is which can be used to import. Oops, sorry, feedback. Maybe turn off your speakers. No, your microphone. Sorry. So that XML file can be imported in the outbound REST view, outbound REST services view, but the outbound REST service is already created. So let's take a look in the application. Administration web services, outbound REST. Yeah, there it is, all right. So this is the XML file can be used to import it, maybe in a different environment, but not in this one because it's already has taken care of it. Okay, finish it is, and now the workspace. Let's just check it out real quick. See, here's my workspace. Yeah, and here's all the business services, one business service, plenty of integration objects. The workflow doesn't belong here. I just played around with the workflow in the same workspace. So yeah, so that was pretty nice. Nice addition, I hope, and guess you hope too, that a lot of wizards will arrive anytime soon. There's maybe somebody has a word to say about it.
This is Nick. I tried it and I got an error for a CIF error, so I'm trying to get to my environment to change the browser stuff they suggested. So hopefully that'll fix that.
Okay, not sure what kind of error. See,
SBL UIF 00391 CAF
okay,
browser not recognized or something like that.
okay. So I hope we can figure it out, or maybe let us know in the next Siebel Friday, or whenever you want to chat about it.
Yeah.
Has anyone else tried it? Oops, keyboard. No, typing. Nobody tried it yet. Okay. Right. Another thing you definitely want to try is this guy, workflow simulator. So I put in the note from Oracle, which Oracle put in Bookshelf, and I'm going to read it here. So for customers signed up to Oracle Siebel CRM limited availability program only, the process simulator is supported in Web Tools for the Siebel CRM 21.4 update. For all other customers, the process simulator is not supported in Web Tools, only Siebel Tools. Duncan, you know that we had a bit of conversation about this statement, and I think it's safe to say it's a public feature, so it's like for everyone who wants to give it a try. Once you update it to 21.4, it's just there.
Right.
Right. So it's not a bug that it like pops up and is available.
No. I mean, we don't release multiple versions of Siebel.
Yeah.
So there isn't like a special limited available version and then a generally available version. There's just the version, the current 21.4 version.
Okay.
That contains this feature. Now, as I understand it, you know, it's kind of like an internal reason why it's listed as limited availability externally. It's kind of to make people aware that it might not be all 100% yet, and to encourage people who do use it. I would like to encourage people who do use it to submit bugs or suggestions, but you know, we want to capture that if you do decide to use it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. To add, this is Holger, Alex.
Yeah, hi,
To add to that, it's really more about us being able to. We want to make sure we're tracking customers that are using limited availability features, so that we can best support them. Meaning, if you know, when we reproduce any issue in technical support, we want to make sure we know all of the variables that are possibly affecting any issues. And so we want to make sure that we understand if you have those features turned on or off, or are using those features or not, so that we can make sure that there's no impact from any of the new features. The quality should be GA quality on any LA features. So it's not about the quality of the feature. It's more about the fact that the new feature is a new variable in how to reproduce the scenario, if that makes any sense at all.
And I think just one final thing to add there is, you know, that every customer that tries this and encounters an issue has a workaround, right? The workaround is you go to Siebel Tools and carry on as before.
Right, yeah. Okay, and yeah, thanks much, Holger and Duncan, for giving us the, well, Oracle side of things. Well, I know you're not here to represent Oracle, of course, but you're among friends. And so so we can give it a spin. If you have not yet updated to 21. Whether was it 20.11 or higher, then you have to set up the debug service, which came with 20.11. Which supports the script debugger. So this uses the same infrastructure. It uses that debug service. So you need to have that set up first, and then I'll show you what I did. So to just give it a try. So I went to workflows, and let's find one workflow. I happen to have a workflow which I worked on with Richard. So I named it Richard, Richard 1. And there's a new icon there, the simulate button. And also in the menu, you find simulate workflow process. So that launches into the simulator, which, like in Siebel Tools, looks very much like the editor. So you see the workflow. You can, inspect what's there. You cannot edit at the moment, or it's not intentional. Of course, it's intentional read-only. The start step is red, so that's the next one executed. Before you start executing, make sure you have no Siebel session open, like with the script debugger. So I'm going to log out of this session, application session, close the tab. And in the menu, there's a small, tiny menu with some zoom options and printing options and application. So this is very similar to the script debugger. First time you use it, you have to decide for which application to launch. It seems to read the AI profile here, if I'm not mistaken. So these are my AI entries. So I opted for call center to run, to be the application that runs. And now with this all prepared, debug service running, application selected, application not logged in, you can start the simulation. So it prompts you for login. Note that it runs under the current workspace. So that session will open the workspace. So of course, any changes you made are reflected there. So again, very similar. If you have ever tried the script debugger or worked with it, it's very similar. I see that progress bar for a long time. Not sure if it's just me, but it seems to disappear after a while. Even if it's running, you can go already to Web Tools, and you see the start step has been executed, so that create integration object step is now to be executed. So this is all business service calls. So we can click simulate next and go through. And you see the watch window, which is labeled workflow process data. That window grows with the properties and property sets that are created or modified. So here's a query running on, it's actually querying for a list of values. And so you see the query output property set. You can expand that or write. And it's really nicely done, I would say. If there's something bigger to read, there's a view button, gives you a kind of pop-up. Especially error messages are very good to read here. If it's editable, there's a pencil, like the object ID. And now there's a map step, so let's run that map step and to see, okay, there's another output here. There's the map output. So all in all, it worked fine for my feeble tests that I did. I didn't really run it for a very complex workflow, but Florian is here from the Deutsche Reiterliche Vereinigung. We had an occasion where you tried the workflow simulator on a more complex workflow, and you made a change to a business service. Yeah, Florian.
Yeah, indeed, and that from my point of view, that worked very well, and I was highly surprised about how fast it worked comparing to running the workflow simulator with Siebel tools and the dedicated web client.
Yes, I already forgot that this exists. Yeah, so thanks, Florian. Yeah, so it's definitely much faster in starting up a debugging session than waiting for the developer web client to launch up. Especially, you mentioned to me that it's especially painful when you are connecting through a VPN from your local machine.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so that's
when starting my client over the VPN client, I can have multiple coffees because it runs about a quarter an hour.
15 minutes.
15 minutes, and now it's running very, very smooth.
Okay, good to hear that in real life it's running as well as in my test environment here. I noticed when you make changes, let's say to an underlying business service, eScript code, you can make those changes in the same workspace. However, you have to reload the workspace, reopen, reinspect it in the application, and then you can just continue. So there's no, and sometimes as it happens, you have to stop the session, have to start a new one. So either way, I'm not sure if that's kind of a kink you have, but it could be related to where you make the changes exactly. But when you make changes, definitely have to reload the workspace in the application. Okay, there's the obvious stop button. So, and you can just start over, literally start over and let it run again to the end. So without starting a new session, but that's similar to the old world. Okay, so that's a surprising addition. The workflow bit in WebTools seems to be quite complete now. So we have the workflow editor 20.12. We have the workflow simulator. Not sure if anything else is planned on the workflow side. I would be happy to hear what's next, but I don't want to freak the Oracle people out. Let's just have rejoice over this one.
I think there's just one thing to add to that last picture, just in case it's already something that people are spotting. And I might be right or wrong in suggesting this, but I noticed that that line that goes from set active to query is kind of like a straight line. And I think somebody's already suggested it'd be nice if it was sort of kinked, if you know what I mean. It had a
yeah, sure.
Yeah, and I think that is a setting somewhere. So
it is a setting in the editor, but not. Let me open it in the editor. Let's see.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe I'm thinking of something else.
Okay, that's well spotted. So here you can dynamic connectors. That's the thing.
That's the one. Yeah.
But
okay,
that's in the editor.
Not showing up in the review. Okay.
Yeah, it's not showing up in the simulator, which is a different, well, I don't know, instance of that same thing. I haven't really gotten. I didn't have time to really look into what kind of JavaScript library Oracle uses here. It looks like JS Plum.
It's not really relevant, is it? I think you're right. I think it's JS Plum.
Yeah.
I mean, it should either work or it shouldn't. And the only reason I pointed it out was because I'd heard it was an option. It's the first time I'm seeing this, to be brutally honest with you.
Okay.
But I'm also thinking, you know, when your workflow becomes complex enough, then your personal decision about where to position these connectors is actually sort of wanted in all views rather than just this view. So I don't know whether I'm
right. And I might be literally being a little bit too Middle European here, but that connector also, the endpoint, it should point the other way. You know, it point sideways. It should point down. But
you can move it along, can't you? Can you not grab the middle of the connector and drag it along?
No, that's not possible here. No handles. No handles, and also there's some fine features. Some features that are in Siebel tools are missing here. Definitely, you can edit. You know, you can move the label along, all that kind of stuff. I haven't seen yet. But anyway, I don't want to bicker about it. But it's definitely would be nice to see 100% parity, which Oracle aims at. But anyway, so the other features that come with 21.4, one that catches the eye is a new drop-down when you run the post-install database option. So literally when you do the SES update, you can either skip post-install database or run it. And now there's a third option. So the checkbox for skipping it has become a drop-down with 3 options. And I tried the new option, which is defer generate DDL files. And that literally runs in a special mode. So it doesn't do anything against database. It generates DDL files, which seem to be the schema part of things, which is especially interesting for customers who only have the DBA change the schema through a file and not any process or something like that. But still, you have to run it anyway because you want to import the seed data and all that kind of stuff. So defer just doesn't do anything but generate the schema DDL file, but you still have to run it after maybe applying the schema manually or whatever. I haven't really got my head around it, but that's what happens when you select it. Okay, and another big one, so 21.4 is the gift that keeps giving, is a new ZooKeeper version. So ZooKeeper 3.6.2 is what's delivered. So the binary-wise, it's probably no big deal. It's like replacing the old libraries with the new library. But there's also changes done, not through the ZooKeeper update, but through a decision made at Oracle to rename folders and rearrange folder structures and rename files. So that might not be an issue at all, but for administrators who have references to these files or folders in some scripting PowerShell scripts or whatever to take backups, definitely the folder location changes. And so you have to take care of that right after the update. And also there's a note in the documentation that once the update installer has updated ZooKeeper, do not restore. Literally, you can discard the old backups you have, and do not attempt to restore a backup from an older ZooKeeper version into the new one. So I would say on the checklist for the admin is, after ZooKeeper is updated, proceed to take a fresh backup. So you have a 3.6 backup and discard the old ones. So that makes sense to me. I'm no specialist here. So let's take a look at these folders. So there is, here my SES folder. So that's of course MDE's topology. So we have the new folder structure, which is laid down when you come from 21.1 or earlier. You get the external, internal application container, etc. We have covered this in previous calls, and so there's my gateway server folder. And notice the ZooKeeper backup. ZooKeeper backup means that's the old ZooKeeper folder just renamed for backup purposes automatically. And there's the new folder, is called registry. And this one has a cleaner structure. It has a configuration part where you find the registry CFG file, which is the new name. It's no longer zoo1.cfg. And the file is rewritten. So it's probably copied over and then rewritten to have the correct references to the data directory, which is the same conf directory. So you find the version 2 folder here. And I played around a little bit because, I'm the playful type. There is a parameter set to false, admin.enable server. And when I first saw this, so this is what it looks like after the update, false. And to be honest, I read up on ZooKeeper, and I know what the admin server in ZooKeeper is. But if you don't know what the admin server is, you might interpret this as ZooKeeper, the server is not enabled, so ZooKeeper is not running or whatever. Yeah. So that is not true. It's just there's a tiny little admin server included in 3.5 or higher, and this is turned off by default, which is a good move, of course, security-wise. But I just turned it on, and I added a server port. So you can choose what port this tiny little server uses. I'll show you what this server does. So that is the new CFG file, and the version 2 folder has a new location. So that's where the persistence is, transaction log and snapshots. So take care when you have any custom references to those folders and files. You might need to rework your custom scripts. All right, so what's with that admin server? Take a look, new tab. So it listens on port 999 on my machine. And if you add /commands to it, you literally get a list of possible commands. These include the famous 4-letter words. That's what ZooKeeper calls them, like "Are you okay?" Or stats, which is not 4 letters, but anyway. And well, clicking those it's literally GET request and gives you JSON structure with some information about the current state of ZooKeeper, what socket, what remote ports are open. So there's a lot, of course, because Siebel's running. And I clicked through all of them, and some of them might be clearly useful for administrators, but mostly they're for people who like to peek and poke things and try things out. So I'm not sure if this has any real value for production purposes, but anyway, it's interesting to learn to know a little bit more about ZooKeeper. Okay, so new ZooKeeper. Wow. So 21.4 is definitely a big one. I see some chat messages here. Jason says, okay, hopefully workspace enabling tasks is next. Yeah, workspace enabling tasks definitely, and maybe the editor in web tools. So we can still hope. Frank says workspace enabling of OpenUI files we're waiting for. Yes, and OpenUI script editing in web tools. Yeah, Frank, I agree. That would be very nice to have. Can't wait to have anything in the browser, really. The more I work with web tools, the more I start liking it, and it's definitely a good sign that things are speeding up here. Okay, so anything else to say about 21.4? Any experience? How did it work out for you?
Hey Alex, this is Holger. One thing to note is we're going to be, you're probably going to be seeing more frequent ZooKeeper and Tomcat updates for Siebel, because those are fairly significant for security. And so we have a plan on more regularly updating the versions of those. So you're going to see that more.
Okay, that's good to hear. Yeah, thanks for sharing this information. So yeah, definitely security-wise, people are often stressed out by the fact that there's an old Tomcat in the network and whatever, and so having. By the way, you don't need to answer it, but there's a frequent discussion at customers who are kind of, well, for one reason or another, don't update every quarter to the latest Siebel. So they're like 20.6 or 20.4 or 19.12, and they are stuck with the old Tomcat. And of course, the security team gets nervous, and the Siebel team says, "Yeah, we can't update Siebel because of X, Y, Z." They can't really update the Tomcat, but they, in theory, they could. No, they could just apply the latest Tomcat.
So there are a couple of golden rules for Siebel, right? And we can make sure that we cover those super quick here. One is, don't ever touch what's in the box. When I say what's in the box, I mean what's in the home directory. You can only support what's there, so you can't change it, unfortunately.
Yes.
The good news is we have gotten much better at delivering updates that are a little bit more backward compatible than in the past. You know, we're really working toward this CI/CD thing to make sure that things flow smoothly as you go from 19.5 to 21.4. You shouldn't see a huge amount of change to a point where you're going to just be frustrated and worried about things still working. So that's the good news in that. So you don't want to get too far behind on the security thing. We can't backport security issues. So if you're finding a CVE in an old version of Siebel, we cannot patch that, because there are many other CVEs typically that will also be there.
Right.
And by just backporting that one will make you feel like you solved world peace, and you move on thinking everything's safe when really it's not. So that's why we don't do that. That's just a good piece of information.
Yeah, thanks. And I like that. Don't touch what's in the box. That's a good one. So no, asking for those customers is still, there's also no goal for Oracle to provide, let's say, a path to just replace Tomcat and keep the old Siebel.
No, our answer has been more. What we're now doing is automated or more automated integrations of new versions for those. And you know, we always have the burden of testing them before we give them to you, because we want to make sure that you don't see any nasty surprises.
Right.
So it does take a little bit of time, but we are actually much more proactive with that now. So, and also as time moves on, those platforms will become more stable, I'm going to say, than they have been, because there are a lot of people sitting on that infrastructure. and they're relying on it to be secure.
Mhm.
So they'll stable out, and we'll be better at accelerating adoption of them. And so I think everything will converge there. I think this problem will effectively disappear over time.
Okay, let's hope so. Yeah, thanks, Holger, very much. Much appreciated that you take the time to join us here, our small group of Siebel nerds. And there's some questions in the chat or messages in the chat from Frank and Jason. Maybe you want to elaborate on that, or Duncan, about the Open UI part, or not at all. It's no pressure. It's just
I don't see it. I'm on the web-based one, and I'm not seeing a chat window on this thing.
Okay, if you don't mind, I'll store the chat and forward it to you, so you can decide if you want to give an answer.
Yeah, sure. That'd be great. If I could find the chat involved.
In the web version, you should find the chat too. Maybe it's you have to wiggle your mouse, and if there's a button popping up. Not using the web version much, I have to say. But I definitely save the chat for later and send you the question. So, guys, you heard it.
Okay. Perfect.
Start typing, guys.
I think the key point there, well, as far as I know, it is a plan that OpenUI files will be workspace enabled.
Yeah, we are moving to full workspace enablement. Now that takes a little bit of time because Siebel clearly is not it's a sophisticated thing. It's got a lot of wiring behind the scenes, right? So it's going to take some amount of time, but we're certainly fully intending to move to fully workspace enabling Siebel, removing the dependency on tools over time. Those are all high-level goals that we have that don't have a specific date on them. Okay, just bigger than small.
That sounds encouraging.
Do you think web tools will ever bring back the properties window?
I don't know. That's a question for Brian Kelly, and we can ask that question. That's not a problem.
Put it in the chat. Put it in the chat.
Put it in there, and we'll get answers for all of those.
Okay. Yeah, great. Thanks. Much appreciated. Okay, so 21.4, it's a wrap. A good one if you want to try, because that's where web tools gets a real boost. And next topic on my list, at least, is talk a little bit about the Siebel Hub, what we recently have added there, and then show you a bit of devpops, my pet project where I have a new version out there as well. So here we are on the Siebel Hub. I know that you're all avid readers, and you know where to find the latest blog post. So I got a blog post out on the workflow simulator recently, which is what I showed you just now. What I really want to point your attention to, two things: the knowledge menu with the Siebel CRM training. So Richard Napier and we have been working together on creating a curriculum which covers not only the new features of Siebel 2021, which is like available as a workshop, or in a modular way, you can download individual pieces, exercise guides, presentations, videos for a small fee that helps us keep the hub running. Take maybe a moment to look through the list of trainings. You might have new team members that come on board, and we have training for those people, developer essentials. We have OpenUI training. So I will be just stopping here and sharing in the chat. I'm gonna share the link. So just in case you have a few minutes. And you know that this video that I'm recording right now and other videos we put on the Siebel Hub YouTube channel. So just let me go to find the link. There it is. And that also goes in the chat for you, so copy paste it there. Yeah, the YouTube channel is Watch This Space, so there will be more videos coming out. Currently, I put a monthly video on the Siebel updates, so there's now 7 videos since 20.10. The Siebel Friday videos go there, and we have plenty of other videos, and they're completely free. So yeah, please use it and subscribe and like and comment as at your heart's content. All right, so that's what goes on the Siebel Hub. There will be more recent training. I'm planning to record some new videos for training on 21.4 since WebTools is more complete now. And then we have devpops. There we go. Yeah. So if you are followers of the Siebel Friday or Siebel Hub or myself on social networks, you know that I have this pet project together with Jason, who is here today. Hi, Jason. And Slava from Australia. It started out in winter as a project where we put together our 3 different branches of our own developments that help developers use the development environment better. And this has grown into a pet project where I have combined a lot of stuff that I wrote in the last 10 years. So maybe you have played with devpops already, and you might have seen in my call center application, you see this big toolbar, which is the devpops toolbar. Then you can turn the little bug icon that comes up is part of the devpop script, and then you can rotate it and toolbarize it so it always stays on top. And I'm just want to talk to you about the features that I added in the April release. So now I'm following in Oracle's footsteps and doing a monthly update. So version 21.4 was released in April. Just want to quickly tell you what's new there. First, a reminder. devpops is educational samples for OpenUI. So if you're interested in OpenUI and you want to see how to do, let's say, a bit more complex stuff like opening complex menus and dialogues, that's definitely something to look into. It's not intended to be used in production environments of any kind. It's just to learn how to do things. Yeah. So, and there's no warranty, no liability. It's MIT license. Yeah. So it's as is. Just as a reminder. Yeah. So here, again, I cannot emphasize this again. If you want to use it, it's totally at your own risk. And so what's new? 21.4. I played around a little bit with putting some stuff into WebTools, which probably Holger and Duncan, you might want to look away because I'm customizing WebTools, which is not possible. But again, it's just educational. How would you do it? And one feature I always wanted to have is a button to register a view. When you create a new view, you know you have to go through those 25 odd clicks in the application to register the view with a responsibility, clear the cache, and so forth. So I always wanted that button in Siebel Tools, and now with WebTools being OpenUI, I can actually add a button and put that into play. I also, one of the first big menus I saw when I opened Siebel the first time was a screens menu. So before the sitemap was even there, so I decided to create a screens menu in WebTools. I played around a lot in the past years with persistent storage. So now put a demo of it in devpops, which means neither the browser, neither cookies, no browser storage like session storage or local storage are used, but the good old Siebel database. So each user can have a private space for storing, let's say, configurations. And there's a use case for it as well. yeah, I modified the fast inspect. So Jason and I have been communicating about this. So fast inspect now has options in case it doesn't work like expected. You know, the fast inspect is a very, very wild ride into undocumented areas of Siebel, but refreshing a workspace with one button click is very alluring here. And I added the break free demo a while ago. So my personal ideas about how to, well, work with form applets in the 21st century. And this is an Easter egg, a very belated Easter egg now, but it was Easter when I wrote it. There is now a form applet editor. Don't expect too much. I'm gonna talk you through. So let's see the web tools part. So if I have a screen, well, here's the account screen. That's also the web tools mod you already seen. Who is editing that screen? It's probably all me, my workspaces. And let's pretend we added a new view like this one. Notice the button register view. That's completely custom, not supported. Yeah. So, but I just want to show how to. You can add a button to an applet through OpenUI, and when you click it, it shows you current custom responsibilities you have been using. So there's, let's say, Alex495, and if you click register, it tells you, okay, this was registered, and it really is. So believe me. So they, let's see. You don't believe me, I know. Oh, I'm still in the debug session here, but let's see how this works out. So let's go to responsibilities. Got this one here. Yeah, you see this view was just added. And it's added for the current user. So if a different user does it, the user is added. And this is using REST API, by the way. So it's a nice use case for using REST API in OpenUI. Why I'm using REST API is because Siebel tools can't do anything else. You can't register a business service with web tools. So, but you can make a REST call. And so the EI object manager, which has a custom repository, can actually, well, work with custom integration objects and that. Okay, so that's there's the screens menu. So it's another way of showing, okay, you can add another menu item. And this one shows, if you look closely into web tools, it really has screens like server configuration. And is this at all possible? Server management, let's see. Let's look into components. And yeah, server management in web tools. I don't know if you want to see that, but it's possible. And why is this possible? It's not that I customized web tools. It's the vanilla screens of web tools. I'm just showing them here. So literally reading the repository and adding links. And there's a recent view, something which I always like to have, views that you recently used, like that components view or the business service simulator, so you can find some views you've been using real quick. Again, this is just showing how to do stuff in OpenUI. It's not really wanting to tell you should be customizing web tools. Okay. That recent views, by the way, that's on an individual basis. So for this developer, that's his or her recent views. And when another developer logs in, has a different set of recent views. So that's an interesting case. You would store it as preferences in Siebel. That's difficult to do. So what I've been doing is I added a persistent layer. Persistence layer, there's someone typing. Can you mute yourself? Okay. And there's a new view. Can't find it. There it is. Devpops storage. And there's a button or menu item that you find in the latest devpops version, devpops storage. And that view shows the storage items. And if you look far enough, you know that I'm not introducing new tables here. I'm hijacking existing tables. Let's see what we have here. There's the recent views for developer 2. And we're just using JSON notation here. So you see that's the responsibility administration view, business service. So this server components view is added here, which was the last view I looked at, and it's stored in my recent views. And you notice that I'm also storing a lot of other stuff like applet configurations, and coming to that in a moment. There's also a pretty print button in case the JSON is not pretty. So that's a little bit of on-the-fly customization of existing views if you want to see. And you see the tooltip, it's actually business service scripts. But just don't want to introduce new tables. Just want to show concepts.
Alex, just while you're here, I just remembered another Easter egg that a lot of people don't know about. Can you go back to the previous screen?
Which one do you mean?
Oh, just go back in your history.
Okay. Yeah.
Now then, it's not here. Actually, no. Can you go to manifest admin?
Manifest
admin? Manifest administration.
Yeah, okay, there you go.
Right, so something that you might want to find, like you've got your tile layout pr.js there.
Yeah. Okay.
Which other UI objects might reference that? Might be a question. So where it says UI objects at the top left.
You mean the column?
Yeah, no, but without going that far.
Okay.
If you go into the query, the query tool. It's on the left-hand side, just under you where it says UI objects.
Okay, you mean that one, yeah?
In there, yeah, to the right-hand side.
Files.
No, to the next one along, not that, the next box. That's the one. Yeah, just type in there, star tile layout.
Okay, and I see what you mean. So search across all the columns.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Okay, so this is all the applets that use it.
Yeah. If you're ever trying to find out which objects use a particular file, might still be a bit of a hunt for it, but this is a bit of an Easter egg hidden in the background. I'll let you quickly find.
Okay, I use it that way. Thanks for showing, Duncan. I use it with columns displayed because you can just display that column.
Oh, okay. I had to add it hidden, but yeah, fair enough.
So that column is there, so that's why it pops up here.
You can't see it clearly, right? That's the thing. You can't clearly see what you're doing with that because it's a link to multiple files.
It's like MVG, yeah.
Exactly. In a way, it's a link to not a link, a join to multiple files. So you don't really see it. It's not very nice, not very pretty like that. But that's why it's there, so that you can run that query.
Yeah. Okay. Good point. So Siebel has Easter eggs too. Yeah. Okay. So last thing, because time is running out. But the please remember. Duncan and Holger are here, and they agreed to answer your questions. So any questions about Siebel, future of Siebel, whatever, put them in the chat. I will put them to Holger and Duncan, and the answers will be published on the YouTube channel under the video. One thing I've been playing around for years was nobody's particularly happy, to introduce that with a negative vibe. Nobody's particularly happy about the applet editor, by the way. I'm looking at you guys. So the applet editor in WebTools, for form applets especially, it's not really very friendly. And I personally, I think, Duncan, we had a conversation years ago, and you and I agreed. I personally think it's not a good idea to try to be pixel perfect at design time in the logical UI. which is what you do in a form applet layout. It's logical UI, it's not the physical one. Because in the browser, you can never be pixel perfect. Yeah, you can try very hard, but in reality, you always have a problem with that. So why not let the browser arrange the let's say the controls in a grid or in a flex grid, and thus look good all the time. And in the logical layout, you just define, okay, this is the relative location of the control. And it started out in a project where I had to re-render form applets for smartphones before there was smartphone UX. And of course, it was difficult to do in Siebel tools, or even with the templates, even with the web templates there. So I'm going to show you something I've been doing for a while now, and I've been recently enhancing it. So here we have the classic form applet as it comes. This is a vanilla applet, so it's reasonably aligned, but there's a lot of white space because my screen is big. Yeah, there's some misalignments there, here and there. There are worse applets, but this one is a good example because it's very big. And it's not in devpops. You can just enable a break free. So just enabling it here. And break free means you're breaking free of the constraints of the table layout. So this reads the layout, and every form section is converted to an accordion. And you see that everything's aligned nicely. And this works for every form applet which is on grid layout. And let me open another one. Opportunities, maybe. Yeah. So here on the opportunity form applet, I played around a little bit with CSS, as you can see. And there's an edit layout button, which is kind of the layout editor I was always hoping that Oracle creates in the Composer. Yeah. And it's nothing near complete. It's a complete mock-up. It's a working mock-up, I call it. Is nothing that you should be using. It's just an idea that I want to share. So what I have here is the ability to, drag and drop stuff around and resize stuff. So let's say this is a little bit big, so let's resize it that. And those changes, resizing and rearranging, are saved in that persistence layer I showed you as JSON. So next time I open the view, it pulls that information and applies it. So now you see the last name is first and the text area is smaller. And the other thing I added as a mock-up, it's a working mock-up. Again, I know this will be recorded. You will hear it all over again. I'm repeating myself. It's not anything that works really. But you could do things like this, that you have layout options for each control and have a conditional expression. Like if sales stage is approved, it's a light green background. It's just CSS you can add here. So let's see if that works. If I set the sales stage to data entry and save, it goes white. Or you can change the overall style of, let's say, those checkboxes. You can make them really big and looking much more, let's say, fancy. So nothing stopping you from using CSS that way, or of course in a more static way with a style sheet. So addressing the controls in a style sheet in a clever way, maybe using field names and values. So I just want to open a discussion here. Can this be the future of form applet layout, ignoring what's more or less in the pixel perfect world of the applet editor, and realigning it using style sheets and controlling that a little bit with some JSON? Again, it's completely open for discussion. Yeah, you can roast me over this. And if you want to join in maybe developing this, I'm open for discussions and for having additional sessions. All right. So, anything you want to say?
This inline editor is fascinating. Fantastic work, Alex.
Okay, thanks.
It's kind of like what we had in Siebel Tools at one time.
Yeah. So, is this something that you would want to develop further?
It's what Oracle should do.
Or yeah, of course, it's like I'm kind of okay. I should stop here because maybe Oracle is looking at this. I know you are. Is Holger still here? Yeah. And I don't want to kind of provoke anything, you know. I'm just a Siebel nerd trying things out and stretching the envelope. But is this anything thinkable in the future of Siebel? Maybe we can't answer it today. Maybe we'll see how it goes.
It would be great if we had this in tools, that's for sure. If we could do it even in a development environment in the GUI, right, the application, that would be also acceptable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that'd be a good conversation. Alex, you should probably talk to Brian Kelly at some point. He'd be a great guy to talk about that with.
Okay, yeah. I see Duncan also proposed that, I think.
I think I have a meeting with him next week.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so yeah, I'll pick that up. So I'll send Brian an email if he wants to talk about it, and let's see what comes of it. Yeah, completely open.
Yeah, and I think, you know, the high level paradigm behind web tools is that, you know, you want to take the good parts of Siebel tools along, but not necessarily the entire legacy, right? There's stuff that's worth leaving behind. There's stuff that's worth taking with you, but that's just not there yet. Mm-hmm. So that's a high level design goal of web tools, right? So I can speak to that, but beyond that is kind of Brian. But he did mention that the properties window is going to be added, so that's in the backlog now. Mm-hmm. And so they're going to be adding that for sure. That's another thing. I put it in the. But, now that I finally found the chat.
You found it, okay. Right, but still,
I do like the idea of the workflow in the GUI because it looks much better than trying to do it in Siebel tools. That's for sure. Yeah. So leaving that legacy behind would be great.
And I'm forwarding him your feedback as well, Jason, so that he gets that.
Okay, so I will still export the chat to document and then send it along to Holger and Duncan for answering properly, let's say, and editing it and then adding it to the video on YouTube, so everybody can read up on that chat conversation answers. Yeah. And again, great thanks to Holger and Duncan for joining today and providing us with so much insight in our Siebel Friday. The Siebel nerds are at it again, and yeah, it has been more than 1 hour already. So I used to have open ends, so if you want to stick around and poke around, I'm happy to do it. I will stop the recording now because that's what goes on YouTube. And if you want to stick around for a few minutes, I'm here for chat. Yeah, thanks for joining. It was a great Siebel Friday. Looking forward to the next one. Please spread the word. And yeah, watch this space for news, Siebel Hub and YouTube. Thank you very much, guys. Yeah.
Thank you.